Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop being easy to manipulate, people start treating you differently? But here's something most won't tell you. When they can't control you, they don't simply leave. They switch tactics. Suddenly you're facing guilt trips, rumors, twisted words, all engineered to make you question yourself. It's subtle, sometimes invisible, and it works only if you're unaware. While you're focused on living your life authentically, they're quietly working to pull you back into their grip. But Stoic philosophy teaches us something powerful. True strength isn't about dominating others. It's about being unshakable yourself. So let me ask you this. Are you truly in control of your actions, or are you still reacting to their psychological games? Maybe now is the time to break free, for good. Stick with me until the very end, because what I'll share last is the most manipulative tactic of all. But before we get into the heart of these strategies, I want to share a story with you. One that will help you see the deeper wisdom in what we're about to explore. It's the story of Adam. Adam was a man who lived by principle. He made his own decisions, listened to his conscience, and refused to be manipulated. In a world where many bend to pressure, Adam stood tall. At work, his boss couldn't shake him with threats. Among friends, he didn't fall for guilt trips. Even in his family, he had firm boundaries, and that made people uncomfortable. He expected that his strength would earn him admiration. But instead, something shifted. People began to change. Friends who once celebrated his independence started calling him distant. Co-workers who relied on him began to spread quiet rumors. Even close family members began labeling him difficult. Confused by it all, Adam visited his old mentor, Mr. Carter, a retired businessman known for his wisdom and calm clarity. "Why is it," Adam asked, "that when I finally started living true to myself, people began turning against me?" Mr. Carter didn't respond right away. Instead, he brought Adam out to the backyard where two horses stood. One was tied to a post. The other roamed freely. "Watch," Mr. Carter said. He walked toward the tied horse. It barely moved. Calm, predictable. Then he approached the free horse. It took a few steps back, alert and cautious. "People," Mr. Carter said, "are exactly like these horses. When they know they've got a rope on you, they're comfortable. They don't feel threatened. But when you're untethered, free, they grow uneasy, because they can't predict what you'll do next." Adam frowned. "So what do they do when they feel that discomfort?" "They don't try to understand you," Mr. Carter said. "They try to control you again. But this time, not with chains, with shame. They'll call you selfish, cold, arrogant. They'll twist your independence into something negative. Not because it is, but because it reminds them of their own lack of freedom." That was the moment Adam understood. People weren't upset because he was wrong. They were uncomfortable because he couldn't be controlled. And so, he stopped explaining himself. He stopped softening his strength to make others feel better. He stopped letting guilt shape his decisions. And what followed was powerful. The manipulators lost interest. The weak drifted away. But those who valued truth and strength, they stayed. Because real strength doesn't fear yours, it respects it. Before we begin with the first lesson, if you find these videos helpful, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new content. Let's get into it. Number 1, they try to manipulate you. Let's talk about what really happens when someone realizes they can't control you. They don't give up. They get creative. They turn to manipulation. Some people crave control so badly that when they can't dominate you directly, they switch to more subtle tactics. They don't shout commands. They play with your emotions. They guilt trip you, flatter you, or make you feel like you owe them something. "After everything I've done for you," or "I just need you, no one else understands me like you do." It sounds caring, but it's not about care. It's about influence. When someone can't control your actions, they try to shape your emotions, so you'll start controlling yourself on their behalf. That's where Stoic wisdom becomes your shield. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." And that's the secret, self-mastery. You don't need to fight every manipulator. You just need to stop reacting. Because the moment you stay calm and refuse to play their game, they lose all their power. Think of it like a chessboard. Every manipulative comment is a move designed to trap you. But if you don't move where they expect, if you observe without reacting, they lose the ability to win. I remember someone who used to constantly twist situations in their favor. One day they asked me to do something I wasn't comfortable with. I said no, politely. Their response? Wow. I thought we were closer than that. And I felt that pang of guilt, the urge to explain myself. But I didn't. I just smiled and said, I know what you're doing. That one sentence changed everything. They were caught, and they never tried to manipulate me again. Because once you see the pattern, it loses its magic. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the feeling. If someone is making you feel guilty or pressured, pause. Ask yourself, is this a genuine request, or is this manipulation? Second, remain neutral. The more emotion you show, the more control they gain. And finally, stop justifying yourself. You don't need to explain every choice. A calm, confident no is enough. In the end, manipulation only works if you react. But when you stand in your own power, calm, grounded, and sure of your truth, you break their influence completely. Because true strength isn't loud, it's immovable. Number 2, they spread lies about you. Now let's talk about one of the lowest tactics someone will use when they realize they can't control you. They start spreading lies. Instead of facing you directly, they attack you in the shadows. They twist your words, distort your intentions, and try to poison the way others see you. Why? Because they've lost control over you, so they try to control your image. They can't win through honesty, so they resort to slander. But here's what you need to remember. Lies are a weapon of the weak. When people can't break your will, they try to break your reputation. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your freedom threatens their illusion of power. But there's something beautiful about the truth. It doesn't panic. It doesn't beg to be heard. It waits. Think of it like mud being thrown at you. If you try to wipe it off right away, it only smears. But if you let it dry and brush it off in silence, you walk away clean. That's what Stoic wisdom teaches us. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." The victory is not in defending yourself, it's in refusing to be disturbed. I once had someone deliberately spread lies about me. At first I felt the urge to explain, to prove them wrong, but instead I chose silence. I kept living with integrity, and over time the truth became obvious. People saw through the noise. The person spreading the lies exposed themselves, not because I fought them, but because they couldn't keep the act going forever. Lies are short-lived, but character? That lasts. So how do you protect yourself when people lie about you? First, don't take the bait. Arguing gives their lies more oxygen. Second, let your actions speak. Over time, consistent behavior reveals more than any explanation ever could. And finally, remember, those who believe lies without asking you directly were never really on your side. Your job isn't to chase every false rumor. It's to stay rooted in who you are. Because when your foundation is truth, no lie can shake you. Number 3, they play the victim. Let's talk about one of the most manipulative tactics people use when they can't control you. They play the victim. Instead of owning their actions, they flip the script. Suddenly they're the one who's hurt, misunderstood, mistreated, while you become the villain in their story. Why do they do this? Because if they can't influence you directly, they'll try to control how others see you. It's not about truth, it's about image. Playing the victim helps them gain sympathy, protect their ego, and shift the blame, and the more you try to defend yourself, the worse it gets. Now you look like the aggressor, while they sit back and soak in attention. It's a performance, a clever one. But every performance needs an audience, and you don't have to be a part of it. Picture someone putting on an award-winning act, painting themselves as the innocent one, while you're painted as cold or cruel. If you jump into the scene to argue, you only strengthen the illusion. But if you stay silent, if you let your actions speak and time reveal the truth, they lose control of the narrative. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest strength. Epictetus said, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Pull you into their emotional trap. But when you stay calm, detached, and grounded, you take their power away. I once knew someone who did this constantly. Every time they were called out for crossing a line, they'd act shocked, hurt, like I had wronged them. They'd run to others and twist the story until suddenly I was the one being judged. At first I tried to explain myself. I wanted people to see the truth. But then I realized the more I tried to prove myself, the deeper I got pulled into their game. So I stopped. I let my character speak for itself. I let time reveal what words couldn't. And it worked. People started to see the truth on their own. Because no matter how convincing someone plays the victim, lies always unravel, and real character always shines through. So how do you handle people like this? First, don't engage. Arguing only feeds their story. Second, let their own behavior expose them, because over time the truth becomes clear. And third, protect your energy. You don't owe anyone a performance. At the end of the day, people who fake victimhood rely on drama and sympathy to maintain control. The best way to disarm them? Stay grounded, stay quiet, and let reality do the talking. Because the truth always outlasts the performance. Number 4, they try to isolate you. Let's talk about one of the most calculated moves people use when they can't control you. They try to isolate you. But they don't do it openly. They work behind the scenes, whispering doubts, twisting stories, slowly turning people around you against you. Why? Because when you're connected, when you have support and strong relationships, you're harder to influence. So their goal becomes simple: cut off your connections, make you feel alone. And when you're alone, you're easier to control. But here's the truth. Isolation is a weapon of fear, not strength. People who rely on control are threatened by your independence. They can't handle the fact that you think for yourself, so they divide and conquer, quietly, carefully. It's no different from the way predators hunt in the wild. Think about wolves tracking their prey. They don't attack the pack. They target the one that's been pulled away. The same is true here. Manipulators don't come for you when you're surrounded by truth and loyalty. They wait until they've created distance, tension, misunderstanding. Once you're isolated, they move in. That's why recognizing the tactic is so powerful, because once you see it, you can break it. This is where Stoic wisdom lights the path. Seneca said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Avoid those who would pull you down." That's not just advice, it's protection. Because the right people will see through lies, the wrong ones will fall for them, and both reveal who's truly in your corner. I remember someone who slowly tried to turn others against me. It started small, just little remarks like, "Are you sure you can trust them?" Then came the half-truths, the misquotes, the twisted narratives. At first I was angry. I wanted to confront them, to set the record straight. But I realized, fighting back only gave them power. So instead I focused on my real relationships. I showed up. I stayed consistent. I let time and truth do the work. And eventually people saw it. The lies fell apart. The ones who truly knew me stood by me. And those who didn't, they were never meant to stay in my life anyway. So how do you respond to isolation tactics? First, stay calm. Your reaction is their fuel. Second, strengthen your true connections. Those who really know you won't be swayed. And third, let people walk away if they choose to believe the lie, because anyone who can be turned against you that easily was never really with you to begin with. In the end, those who fear your independence will try to make you feel alone, but they can't break what's built on truth. Stay grounded, stay connected. And remember, real relationships don't fall apart because of someone else's lies. Number 5, they challenge your confidence. Now let's talk about one of the more subtle but dangerous tactics people use when they can't control you. They challenge your confidence. They won't confront you head on. Instead, they slowly chip away at your self-belief. They ask questions that sound innocent. Are you sure that's the right decision? But their intention isn't to help. It's to make you second-guess yourself. Because here's the truth. When someone can't manipulate your choices, they try to make you unsure of them. If they can shake your confidence, they regain control, not over your actions, but over your thoughts. And when doubt creeps in, influence follows right behind it. Think of your confidence like a bridge, solid, steady, built on experience and intuition. But what happens when someone stands next to you and keeps whispering, "What if it breaks? Are you sure it's safe?" The bridge hasn't changed, but now you hesitate. That's exactly what they want. They want you to lean on them for reassurance, for validation. Because if they can make you doubt your own path, they can guide you back onto theirs. That's why Stoic philosophy is so powerful here. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not determined by external approval." True confidence comes from within, not from applause, not from agreement, but from knowing who you are and trusting what you've built within yourself. I remember someone in my life who always had a way of questioning me, not out of concern, but out of subtle control. Every time I took a bold step, they'd say things like, "That's risky. Are you sure you want to do that?" And at first I'd explain myself. I wanted them to understand. But over time I saw the pattern. They weren't questioning the idea, they were questioning me. So one day I stopped explaining. I looked them in the eye and simply said, "Yes, I'm sure." No extra words, no debate. And something shifted. They had nothing left to say. Because confidence doesn't argue, it just is. So how do you protect your confidence? First, trust your decisions. If they're based on reason and self-reflection, stand by them. Second, stop over-explaining. Confidence doesn't need approval. And third, remember that their doubt isn't your truth. Just because someone questions you doesn't mean you're wrong. At the end of the day, your confidence is your shield. People may try to challenge it, test it, shake it, but they can only succeed if you hand them the power. Stay grounded, stand tall, and never let someone else's doubt replace your own clarity. Number 6, they provoke you emotionally. Let's talk about one of the oldest tricks in the book. They try to provoke you emotionally. When someone realizes they can't control you through logic or guilt, they change their strategy. They start pushing your buttons, not because they care about the argument, not even because they believe what they're saying. They do it to get a reaction. They insult you, mock you, twist your words, not to hurt you directly, but to make you lose your composure, because once you explode, they win. They point and say, "See? Look how unstable they are. Now you're the problem. Now they're the calm one, the victim." It's manipulation disguised as confrontation. But here's the truth. They don't want a real conversation. They want control. And when they can't get it calmly, they'll stir up chaos just to throw you off balance. That's why emotional self-control is power. Think of your emotions like fire, and them like the wind. The more you react, the bigger the flames. But if you stay calm, the fire goes out. They lose their fuel. That's exactly what Stoicism teaches us. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that's the key. Don't mirror their chaos, don't fall into their trap. Stay centered and you take their only weapon away. I remember someone who constantly tried to bait me into arguments. They'd bring up old mistakes, say things they knew would sting, even attack my character. And I'll admit, there were moments I wanted to snap, but instead I looked at them and said, "That's an interesting perspective." That's it. No defense, no anger. And their face said it all. They were stunned. Because they didn't know what to do when I didn't react. That's when I realized, calm isn't weakness. It's control. And it's the kind of control that no manipulator can stand. So how do you handle emotional provocation? First, recognize the game. If someone's trying to provoke you, stop and ask, what's their goal? Second, pause before reacting. A breath of silence is more powerful than 100 angry words. And finally, walk away from battles that don't deserve your energy. Not every insult deserves your presence. Not every argument deserves your voice. At the end of the day, your emotions belong to you. When you choose calm over chaos, silence over shouting, self-control over reaction, you win. Not just in the moment, but in life. Because the strongest person in the room is always the one who refuses to be controlled. Number 7, they copy you. Now let's talk about a tactic that's both frustrating and revealing. They start copying you. At first it feels small. You make a bold decision and suddenly they do the same. You try something new and a little while later, they're doing it too. Sometimes even pretending they came up with it first. And that's when it hits you. They're not competing anymore. They're imitating. Because when someone realizes they can't control or outshine you, the next move is often this. They try to become you. But here's the truth. No matter how much they mimic, they'll always be behind. Because imitation is not creation. It's a shadow, not the source of light. They think if they talk like you, act like you, present ideas like you, they'll gain the same respect or success. But what they don't realize is that your power doesn't come from your image. It comes from your essence. It's not what you say, it's how deeply you live it, and that can't be copied. Stoic wisdom reminds us of this. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person." In other words, your real value lies in who you are, not in the surface-level things people can replicate. They can copy your words, your style, even your ideas, but they can never copy your mind, your story, your spirit. I once knew someone who copied almost everything I did. Every decision I made, every habit I formed, they followed. At first it felt like theft, but then I realized something important. They weren't ahead, they were lost, and my path gave them a sense of direction they didn't have on their own. One day I completely changed my approach, pivoted in a way they couldn't anticipate, and just like that, they were stuck. Because when you're always copying, you're never leading. That's when I stopped feeling frustrated and started feeling proud, because imitation isn't a threat. It's a sign that you're ahead. So how do you deal with people like this? First, don't let it distract you. The fact that they're copying you means you're doing something right. Second, keep evolving. The faster you grow, the harder it is for anyone to keep up. And third, remember that imitation isn't flattery, it's insecurity. They're not trying to be like you because they admire you. They're trying because they don't believe in themselves. At the end of the day, copies fade, but originality endures. Keep being yourself, keep leading, and let them chase the shadow, while you stay rooted in the light. Number 8, they wait for you to fail. Now let's talk about a hard truth. Some people aren't really supporting you, they're just waiting for you to fail. They smile in your face, nod when you share your dreams, and say all the right things. But behind that polite encouragement is quiet resentment. Your ambition threatens them. Your growth exposes their stagnation. And because they can't match your momentum, they secretly root for your downfall. They don't want to celebrate your rise. They want to witness your fall. And when you stumble, even for a moment, they're the first to say, "I knew it wouldn't last." But here's the truth. Their doubt is not your destiny. These people aren't cheerleaders, they're scorekeepers. They're not clapping because they believe in you. They're clapping because they're waiting for the moment you mess up so they can feel better about staying in place. But that's where they fail, because true success isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you are capable of more. Think of it like a storm testing a tree. A shallow tree bends and breaks, but one with deep roots stands strong no matter how fierce the wind gets. That's what Stoicism gives you, deep roots. Epictetus said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall. Your focus should be on growth." And that's the key. Let them hope. Let them wait. You grow. I remember someone in my circle who always acted supportive, but every time I hit a challenge, they were the first to plant a seed of doubt. Are you sure this will work? Well, we'll see. It took me a while to realize they weren't offering advice. They were silently betting against me. And the day I failed at something, they were far too quick to say, "I told you so." That's when I stopped seeking their support altogether. I stopped explaining. I stopped performing. I turned inward. I worked harder. I kept going. And when I finally succeeded, their silence said more than their fake support ever did. So how do you deal with people who wait for you to fail? First, notice the signs. If someone disappears when you succeed but shows up when you're struggling, that's a red flag. Second, stop performing for them. Your journey is not a show for their approval. And third, let success speak for itself, not out of spite, but out of purpose. Because nothing disrupts a silent hater more than watching you rise in the very place they hoped you'd fall. At the end of the day, their hope for your failure is powerless unless you give up. So don't. Keep rising. Keep moving. And let their silence be your soundtrack to victory. If you've made it this far, you already know something powerful. People will try to control you, manipulate you, and break your spirit. Not because you're wrong, but because your strength reminds them of their own weakness. And every tactic they use, from guilt to lies, from isolation to imitation, it all has one purpose: to pull you back into a place where you're easier to manage. But you're not here to be managed. You're here to be free. Stoic philosophy teaches us that real power comes from mastering ourselves, not from controlling others, and not from reacting to their games. So as you move forward, remember this. Your clarity will be challenged, your peace will be tested, and your growth will make others uncomfortable. But that's not a reason to shrink. That's a reason to rise even higher. Stand firm in who you are. Trust your choices. Let your calm be louder than their chaos. Because in the end, strength doesn't shout. It stands tall, quiet, unmoved, unbreakable. If this message spoke to you, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Your support helps keep this message alive. And remember, no matter who tries to control you, you always have the power to choose freedom.